kind of keep it. You're going to see probably something on your screen that you need to hit there. So I do see people starting to join us. So while that's happening, I'll talk just chat a little bit with everybody. So give them a chance to get settled in here before we start the conversation. So hello, Georgia.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. Yeah, you're good evening. Let's see, we're in San Diego, so we're good afternoon. And hello, Julia. Are you good afternoon? Good evening.
I am good afternoon. Yeah, I'm in Santa Barbara, California. So
okay.
Same time zone. Yeah,
just up the coast a little bit.
Yeah,
another beautiful place. So, Julia, you were asking earlier where Warwick's is, and I'm assuming everybody doesn't. Well, there might be people that know. They had to come to Warwick's website to get into this thing, but we're actually located in La Jolla, San Diego, California, and my little sign there says 1896. So. Been doing this for a long time. Appreciate both of you being here and doing this conversation about this wonderful book. I think everybody that's in the Zoom webinar knows who you two are and why they're here, but we are recording this. So people might be stumbling on this at some other place. So I'm going to quickly introduce you two, and then I'm going to go away so you guys can chat. So Georgia Pritchett is a multi-award winning comedy and drama writer. Her writing and production credits include Veep, Have I Got News for You, Smack the Pony, Not Going Out, The Thick of It, and many more. She is currently a writer and co-executive producer on HBO's critically acclaimed and award-winning show Succession, now in its third season. Best known for her award-winning roles as Selena Meyer on Veep and Elaine Bennis on Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is an actress, producer, and environmental activist. They're here today to talk to us about Georgia's new book, My Mess is a Bit of a Life, and maybe some more stuff. We'll see what's going to happen there. I'm going to put in the chat how to order the book. Ladies, you have a great conversation, and we'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Georgia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. We're on our little own private talk show.
Yes. I'm excited because you won't be able to be as rude to me as you usually are.
Oh, I'm going to be unbelievably rude. I forgot to ask the nice Warwick woman if we're allowed to swear in this. I assume we are, aren't we?
Yes, swear away.
Thank you. So how nice to talk to you about your book, and congratulations on it being released here in the United States. That's very exciting.
Yes.
And what, by the way, you were telling me it's a slightly altered version that they had to do, correct? For
Yes.
it being released. So what, like, for example, what did you, I just need to know, like, can you give a tiny example of the little change you had to make so that us American types could understand what the hell you were saying?
Yeah. I had to translate it into your language.
Yes.
Yes, I suppose it's full of very British references, particularly 80s and 90s ones to kind of celebrities and snacks and things. So I had to explain
who certain people were. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got it. So I have to tell you that it was interesting because I've now read the book twice. And
I didn't think you would.
I did. I actually did. And I've made
little about you.
I've got lots of little Post-its and things. And as I said to you earlier, I have a lot of questions, some of which I'll ask now, some of which I'll ask you in private after the fact.
I mean, if you've read the bit about you, maybe we should just communicate via our lawyers. I don't know.
Oh, that's actually in progress already. So you may have received a cease and desist or whatever it is they're called. But in the meantime, I have to say that I really do think this book is pretty fantastic. And I just love it. I think it's so funny. And I hope you don't mind my saying, I think it's so many aspects of it are very sad. And I relate to it because of the subject matter, which is, of course, the theme of it being anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, since you've written this book, how is your anxiety?
I mean, I like to be positive about it. I'm getting better and better at worrying. It's like a superpower.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it. I think it's interesting that I've written this whole book about how bad I am at talking about my feelings, and then people like you keep asking me to talk about my feelings.
But I mean, has it been a release? But I mean, has it been a little bit of a release to write the book, or not so much?
It has, actually. I have to admit, it has, having kept everything buttoned up for so long. I kind of reached some moment, I don't know, it was either an unusually kind of brave thing to do, or just a terrible lapse in judgment. I haven't quite decided which is true.
Well, I think it was, I mean, honestly, to speak seriously about it, I think it was incredibly brave. And I think that you've done it, this book, you've written this book with such a distinct voice. Was it hard to come to that voice as you were writing, or did it come fairly easily?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. A few people have said, why did you choose that kind of format? And it's nice to think that people think that was some kind of literary choice, but I was just sort of embracing my limitations as a writer. And I think, I've been a script writer for so long, and my brain just frames things really in terms of scenes. So in a way, it's like a lot of scenes from my life.
Totally. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. But within those scenes is this lens through which you tell or we visit these scenes with you through this lens of your voice, which I think is really it's very compelling, and it's very sympathetic. And I love it. Did you find that how different writing this book has it been from writing a script?
Really different, I think.
Really different. Yeah.
For years, I was just putting words in other people's mouths, and I liked kind of hiding behind the lines I wrote and being anonymous. And if it was no good, I could blame the actor.
Believe me, I know, right.
And I think what's sort of exciting about script writing is it's the only form of writing really where you have to be in relationship with the actor. It's a completely symbiotic relationship. A script writer can't survive without actors, and actors can't survive without scripts. So it's such a, when that works, that's so fantastic. And it's like a kind of incredible marriage or something.
Yes.
And then when you write a book, you're completely alone. It's very personal and very direct, which is scary. And it felt very different and terrifying.
Was it terrifying as you were doing it?
Yeah, because I suppose you don't know how it's going to be received, and you're the only. I can't point my finger at you.
Right.
So,
you screwed it up. Right. I will say, for the people who are listening to this right now, that a funny story that I think we should tell is, within the book you talk about having nosebleeds as a manifestation of your anxiety in many circumstances, and it's happened to you many times in your life. And you wrote that nosebleed into an Emmy Award winning episode of Veep, in which Gary gets a nosebleed, played by Tony Hale, when he finds out that Selena Meyer's becoming president, or pregnant, whatever. No, president.
Yeah.
And but I do have to tell, I hope you don't mind, the story of when we were doing the table read of that particular script of yours. And we had this very meta moment, because the table read really went quite well, and we were having gobs of fun, or maybe it was the rehearsal, in fact. And you got a nosebleed watching us do the scene. Am I right?
Yes. Thank you for drawing attention to one of my more attractive qualities.
No, I think it's kind of fabulous.
Yeah, I guess that was a satisfying moment where some weird kind of foible or a part of your dysfunction actually proves to be quite useful. So
Right.
yeah, we spent ages, didn't we, in rehearsal thinking, when Selena becomes president, like obviously she's going to be pleased, but Gary is going to be the one who's more excited than anyone, and how can he express that? And we kind of tried him laughing, him crying, you know, all kinds of things. And then it happens to me at any kind of moment of extreme emotion, whether it's joy or sadness. It's just my way of expressing my feelings. And so it seemed very obvious to me. I was like, oh, he'd have a nosebleed. He seems like a similarly emotionally unevolved person to me, and not very good at expressing himself. And it was just one of those moments where as soon as I said it, you and Tony like rushed into the bathroom of the rehearsal room and just started doing it. And it would just worked so well. And it was so exciting for me that, yes, I did indeed then have a nosebleed. And
Yeah, but I mean, it speaks to your fine writing, not only in this book, but as a writer of television, how you bring a very authentic, your own authentic and real and peculiar experience to writing, which makes it so elevated, and why I think you're one of the many reasons I think you're such a wonderful writer. So you come from a very literary family, and you talk in the book about it's Bach who talks to you about Naughty Georgie stories, right?
Oh yeah, Naughty Georgie, yeah.
And then your grandpa on the other side was a writer as well.
Yeah,
and
my
so
parents.
yeah. So did what kind of influence did I'm assuming huge influence, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, your family influences as a writer.
Yeah, I think I'm really lucky in that I came from a family where that was seen as a job, like a real job.
Yeah.
Because so many people don't have that luxury. And I think I'm also really lucky in that I think being a writer is the only thing I have not been confused about in my life. And so I knew, like from the age of 3, that I wanted to be a writer. Even before I could actually write, I was speaking stories into a tape recorder, which were, you know, pretty much exclusively about budgies who had fallen out of their nest and couldn't find their way home. It's a niche genre and hasn't taken off in the way I'd hoped, but one day.
But I have to tell you something. When I read that, and I was reminded, did you know that there's a book called Are You My Mother by P.D. Eastman? And it's a book I used to read to my boys, and it's about a bird who falls out of its nest, for real, and goes around asking things like a steam shovel or a hat, are you my mother? Yeah, it sort of reminds me of Baby Budgie. I think you're onto something with Baby Budgie.
Okay, I will. Well, and then when I was like 10, I got my first typewriter, and I wrote a kind of a biography of my hamster, a no holds barred, coruscating, tell all, not kiss and tell. I didn't kiss my hamster, not in that way. About my hamster, who, like all my pets, spent all of its time and energy trying to get away from me and escape.
This is Hammy, right?
This is Hammy, and really it's a pretty pet heavy book. It's an unflinching portrait of uncooperative pets, which the world needs.
Yeah. Do you have pets now?
Sadly, well, we got 2 rabbits.
Right, but that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And do you have a copy of the Hammy biography? I
think maybe my mum and dad might have it. Yes, it's as yet unpublished, if anyone's interested.
Because I'd like to maybe look at that as IP that to develop, you know? Why not? Yeah. If Hammy's a complicated person, that appeals to me.
Yeah.
I mean, like, a hamster, I should say.
Yeah.
And so can you talk about starting out as a writer? I mean, you just have obviously talking about Hammy and Baby Budgies, but as a real writer, where you were actually making a living?
Yeah, well, having said I always wanted to be a writer and wasn't confused about it, I then had this moment where I thought, oh, I know I want to write, but I know I can't write prose because I don't know enough adjectives, and also I really hate describing things. And I know I can't be a journalist because I don't care about facts, although nowadays
Nobody cares about facts. That's passé. Facts are facts are.
Yeah, I could do that now. But yeah, so I thought, oh, what? I don't know what I can do then. And then my mum, who's quite skilled at pointing out people's faults, particularly mine, pointed out that I had apparently a very annoying habit of watching like sitcoms and sketch shows and stand-up and just memorizing huge chunks and reciting it. And so I thought, oh, maybe dialogue is my thing. And so I started writing on like sketch shows and writing for stand-ups, and yeah, that was really fun. My first job was writing on a sketch show on radio, and we got £8 a joke.
That's real money.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, some weeks I got 2 jokes on, so I made out like a bandit.
Yeah, no kidding. That's amazing. Your mother, who you refer to as the witch, as I recall.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, lots of nicknames in this book, which I love.
Yeah, is that a British thing? We all always have lots of nicknames. I don't know. Maybe saying each other's names feels too personal. We have to like either surnames or nicknames.
Maybe. I don't think it's British. I think it's particular to you, by the way.
Okay.
But it makes me happy to see and to read about, and I love it. I love it. How is your family, given how much anxiety is these stories, these anxious episodes that you recall in the book, how's your family reacting to this? I mean, what was their reaction to this?
Well, that's an excellent question, because I am a very private person, and I think people who've known me my whole life probably don't know 80% of what's in the book. So when it was about to come out, I was very anxious, thinking, oh my goodness, what are my mum and dad going to say? Because we never talk about personal things, and this is going to be strange. But what's been great is we never talk about personal things. So we've never had a conversation about it. It's worked out really well.
What? Have they read the book?
I think so. I don't know.
Georgia, are you kidding?
No.
That's crazy town. That's amazing. Okay, well, so
to
fine. So perhaps they haven't read it, and
maybe they have. Maybe they're writing their own version, and we'll have a literary feud.
Or maybe you're getting a letter from their lawyer as well, right?
Yeah, class action.
Totally. Is in the beginning of the book, and of course, actually throughout the book, you refer to aspects of your anxiety, like Inner Tokyo, Godzilla, the Moths, Dark Overlord, Beaver. Were these names that you actually had at the time, or you identified your anxiety with these names when you were trying to write it out?
These were things that kind of came to me as I was growing up, and I think it wasn't on purpose, but I think accidentally it really helped me, because I think when you feel kind of at the mercy of difficult feelings or anxiety, it can be very scary and overwhelming. But when I started to think, oh, that's, that horrible feeling in my stomach, that's like a dark overlord beaver chewing on my intestines. There's something about thinking, oh, here's Godzilla coming to stomp on my inner Tokyo, that when you kind of turn them into these characters, somehow make them feel less scary and mysterious, and you kind of think, oh, well, yeah, I know they're going to turn up again, but I also know they'll go away again, and it feels kind of easier to deal with when you think of them in those terms.
Well, I think that's so fascinating that you came to that yourself, because I know a thing or two about anxiety, having dealt with it myself and having members of my family who've had it and have it. what you're doing, what you did and do is you're separating yourself from it. So by identifying it as outside of yourself. So it's not you, it's the moths. And I think that's just kind of incredible that you came to that, because if you read about anxiety, particularly in kids, very often they'll talk about identifying it as separate from them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That's
and maybe that's just part of that. I kind of think in terms of characters and dialogue, and so everyone's a character, and
totally. Everybody has a nickname, including the anxiety.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Different pockets of the anxiety.
Yeah.
Do you still hate milk? Actually, I wanted to ask you that question.
I do, yes.
All forms of milk?
Not all forms, no.
Like cream?
I'm very I'm unknowable, Julia. I'm very complex.
I'm concerned because I'm sure we'll see each other again soon. I just don't want to fuck up and give you a glass of milk when I shouldn't, or whatever. I mean, do you put milk in your coffee?
I don't drink hot beverages because I don't believe in pleasure. You know that.
I don't believe in pleasure. Oh my God. I wanted to know, how old were you? There's a bit in the book about Nelson.
Yes. Our budgie.
And Nelson, you find out after the fact, was clubbed to death. Correct?
I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds bad.
Well, yes, except to say I'm quoting from the book.
Yes. Nelson had some problems and
was being a pain.
I was told he had escaped and flown off with the lady Nelson and was very happy somewhere. But I found out later, not that much later, sadly, that my dad had, let's call it an assisted suicide.
The patriarchy.
World.
Yes.
We're dealing with all the important topics tonight. Who else is talking about assisted suicide in the budgie world? Yeah, he had felt it necessary to come to Nelson's aid in a slightly unorthodox manner and let it slip out what he'd done to my pet.
And were you like, I mean, may I ask, were you shocked? Did it seem natural that the patriarchy would do such a thing?
It was very unlike my dad, who we called the patriarchy. He hardly clubbed anything to death in my whole childhood. So that was out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it was outside the parameters of who he was. But I think your granny, by the way, sounded like a lot of fun. When she would say, it made me laugh when I read about her screaming, "Don't relax," to your father.
Yes.
And so what would he be doing for her to say, "Don't relax"?
Well, just if he looked like he might kind of sit down and have a conversation or a drink or something, she wanted him like a coiled spring, ready to help or run to the kitchen or do something. So yeah, he had to be ready to be up in one bound.
God, are any of your grandparents still alive?
No, sadly not. No.
Yeah, they're all characters, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Lucky you, I think.
Yeah, I think it's good to.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get into the work part of your life, but you did speak about you wrote for Spitting Image.
Yes.
And you tell the story of Russians coming to see.
Is this a wise subject at the moment?
Yeah. Right?
Okay.
And they came and they stole a bunch of puppets?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, okay, maybe.
Perhaps they did. Okay.
Feel them
right.
massing on the border as we speak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah, exactly. That was amazing to me.
Yeah.
That story, the fact that you wrote for Smackdown Pony, by the way, which was I loved Smackdown Pony. I don't know if a lot of Americans watch Smackdown Pony, but I certainly did, and we've subsequently, I've
Yeah.
become great friends with Sally Phillips and
Yes.
Darren Boyd, who was also in it. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
know you're friends with so many of that cast, but that was such a marvelous show because it was so female centric, unlike most of anything in comedy specifically. Can you
Yes.
talk about that, about your life as a writer in very much a so-called man's world?
Yes. I mean, it's interesting. You know, I think your country, she says accusingly,
Yes.
has proved itself to be pretty sexist over the last 5 years, well, longer than 5 years, but specifically. But you are so far ahead of us in terms of comedy and women and TV. It's very strange over here. I was always the only woman in the room for 25 years. And whenever it was just incredibly hard. And I kind of consider myself a comedy refugee because I've sort of fled to your country where I get work and I get to write for women and be in rooms with women. And it's an incredible thing. And I think what's so interesting is that over there, right from the beginning of sitcoms, you've had women in the lead, whether it's Lucille Ball or Mary Tyler Moore or Rhoda or Roseanne, just going forward. You've always had that, and we just haven't had that over here. We've had women either playing nags or slags, so either kind of sensible girlfriend or wife doing the setup line, or some kind of nosy neighbor or oversexed older woman or something. And even today, our most popular sitcom here, which has gone on for years and years, I think it might be in its 8th season, maybe more, is A Man Dressed as a Woman. We've never had a woman in the lead of a sitcom for that long, but we've had a man dressed up as a woman.
What show is this?
Mrs. Brown's Boys. And so we've just got this weird attitude towards women, and the conversation, are women funny, was a conversation that people actually had, like, for a long time. And so it's just been a delight being, when I did Veep, when it sort of moved to LA, I got to be in the room with other women. There were like 2 whole women in the room, and that was 300% more women than usual. And it's really exciting and validating to be in a room with people who look a bit like you and dress a bit like you and have similar life experiences, and it's fantastic. And it's also really exciting to write for women who in the lead, and also women who are allowed to be flawed and have faults and are whole women, and that was what's so great about Selena is in the UK we tend to want our women, either, as I said, they're nags or slags, or they're like the perfect woman, the perfect mother and the perfect wife. And what was so great about writing for Selena is it definitely cannot be said she was the perfect mother or perfect wife. She was a fantastic character who was really complicated, and you kind of, I think the viewer had a complicated relationship with her, and that was just a delight to write.
Yeah, it was. It was an unusually a written character, because you kind of felt for this horrible woman.
Yeah.
Sort of, I found a way of identifying with this horrific person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy we were able to bring more women to the fold. We actually had more than 2. We had multiple,
then we had
yes.
It was great.
Yeah. And so now you're working on sorry, this isn't really in the books per se, but you are working on Succession,
Yes.
which is a drama, although I find many aspects of it hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think probably you do too. But tell the difference. Can you talk about the difference between writing for a drama and then for a show like Veep or The Thick of It? I mean, do you have to make an adjustment in any way as a writer? Is it a relief not to have to think of funny bits? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, as you know, the writers, the sort of core writers who've been on Succession from the beginning are a bunch of British comedy writers who and are lovely and kind of scruffy, shambolic, British, socially awkward comedy writers. And
Right.
I think we've sort of brought a comic sensibility to a drama. I think there was definitely some doubt in some quarters, could this bunch of British bozos pull off a kind of high-end glossy American drama? And in some ways, no, we couldn't. Because
no, incorrect.
well, what was so interesting is we had lots of consultants on Veep, which was fantastic, but on Succession we also have a lot of consultants, obviously business people, but the most important thing we have is a rich consultant who comes and tells us what it's like to be rich. And in the first season, we made all these mistakes. And in the first season, I wrote this episode about Thanksgiving, and our rich consultant gave me quite a hard time because he was like, you've got them wearing coats. Rich people don't wear coats. They go from their car to their jet to their building, like, you moron. And then I had at Thanksgiving dinner, I'd written a sort of stage direction. See, I hate describing things. I'd written a stage direction saying that, maids were serving the food or something, or women in maids' outfits. And he was like, where on earth did you get the idea that there would be maids dressed as maids? And I was like, I don't know. I think it was either porn or racist Tom and Jerry episodes. I don't know what I'm basing that on. And so he's explained, no, you get very attractive young men who wear chinos and polo shirts. And
oh yes.
so yeah, we had to kind of be taught, we're just a group of people who are just so excited that HBO are buying our sandwiches every day, that our concept of richness is not the Roy family. So, in some ways we didn't get it right, but I think the comedy sensibility and the fact that even though there might not be jokes, we still make every word count, I think has really paid off.
Yeah. I think, if I may be so bold to say that, I think that when you're working on a comedy, there's an element of authenticity, and it has to have a real truthfulness to it to be funny.
Yes.
And that same thing, that same sort of drive, and when it's funny, and you also know when it's not funny, but it's that same driver that works for drama.
Yes, totally.
And I think that's probably why everybody does it so well, because it's you can't fake comedy, and I do think you can fake drama. I do, but you guys don't, because you come from a history, you have a background of not being able to fake it, and so therefore yeah. God, that's I didn't know you had a rich consultant.
Yeah, and he had to teach the actors to get in and out of the helicopters without ducking, because rich people don't duck. So it's interesting. Totally
interesting. I would just love to. I need to know more about that. I think that's incredible. So you talk a lot about your children in this book.
Oh, yeah.
What was it like to write about your kids? You have 2 boys.
Yes.
And can you talk about that a little bit? Like, going
Yeah,
there?
I mean, I couldn't really not write about them because they're, my world.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I think they've I mean, obviously children always change your life, but they've changed my life in unexpected ways, because they, are not sort of typical or neurotypical children, so they just see things in a different way, and they have different priorities, and it's just incredibly exciting and challenging and amazing to kind of be around them, and be able to be part of their world, and to sort of have your mind open to things. And it's kind of like parenting times 100. Every day is a million things happen, and I mention in the book, like, 1 minute you're kind of putting your child to bed and he tells you you've got eyebrows like beautiful socks, which no one else has picked up on. So
but not just socks, beautiful socks.
Beautiful socks, yes.
So
then the next minute you're being kind of shaken awake at 2 a.m. as like in a matter of emergency, like, what's your favorite bird of prey? And then I know you covet it a lot, but you can't have it. For Mother's Day I got a ceramic heart that said "Danger, Crumbling Quarry," and so it's just
genius. It's absolutely genius.
So
I have to say also, remember, he sent me a danger sign. Yes, I'm very proud to receive it.
Yeah, he's big on health and safety.
Yeah, I get that totally. But that was an amazing Mother's Day gift.
Yeah, that was good.
Incredible. And can you would you mind telling the Willy Wonka incredible story, the wedding?
Yeah, I mean, this was one, there's so many surprises in parenting anyway, but this was one of those moments where my older son didn't talk until he was 7, which, for me, I'm all about the words, and words are everything. So to suddenly find that was of no use was, difficult. And but then he kind of taught me all these other ways to communicate. But we had this amazing teacher who who basically taught him to speak when he was about 7, and her name was Chloe, and she got married a few years later, and something like weddings with hundreds and hundreds of people is a difficult situation for him. So we weren't sure if he'd manage it, and she sent him photos of the venue, and we kind of did some practice runs, but we just kind of had to approach it. Maybe we'll be there, maybe we won't, who knows. But we went to the ceremony, and then he wanted to go to the reception afterwards, and we were kind of having lunch. It was all going really well. And then they started making the speeches, and he kept sort of pulling on my arm and saying, I make a speech, I make a speech. And I was saying, no, that's like for the families. And no, I make a speech. And I was saying, make one to me later. All those annoying things you say as a parent. Pretend this sausage is a microphone and make one to me now.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I make a speech. And I was like, well, okay. So I told Chloe, and she was like, yeah, sure. And they passed him this microphone, and he got up on this stage, and there were 250 people there. And there was just this incredibly long silence. And I just thought, oh, he didn't know what he was saying. He didn't understand. And then he started singing Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka. He said, I want to say thank you. And he started singing Pure Imagination. I didn't even know he knew the song. And it was just incredible. And Chloe was destroyed in a good way. But what was so sweet is he sang this whole song, and then as a sort of encore, he got all 250 people singing Willy Wonka together. not that traditional in marriage ceremonies, but we did the whole Willy Wonka song with a few extra choruses. So yeah, it was one of those moments where well, your children always surprise you, but he surprised several hundred people.
I mean, that is just so beautiful. I can't even believe that story. You must have died and gone to heaven in that moment.
Yeah.
You and Catherine both, right? I mean, Jesus. Well, I think that's an incredible story. And I want to remind people who are listening that if they haven't bought the book, which is right here, it's a great cover, don't you think? It's a great,
I love it.
It's a great title too, which I know sort of fell into your lap with a flip of sorts, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I genuinely said it.
Yeah. But it's a great book. And I think that in terms of the book, one service that the book does, I think, with great humor and tenderness, is it really destigmatizes anxiety and big anxiety, not just little things, big anxiety, real, true anxiety, in a way that's it's just magnificent. And so I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude for that, for real. I think it's a lovely thing you've done. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for chatting.
This was so great. Julia, what you said at the beginning, where you said it made you laugh and cry, that's what this conversation did, because I was in the background laughing. And then just that last story that you told about your son. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Amazing. So thank you. Thank you both. Thank you to Harper. I was cracking up though on one thing that cracked me up when you said you don't believe in pleasure. All I could think of you was writing about Roman. How do you write Roman?
Yeah. That's as close. That's my romantic story for the world, is Roman and Jerry.
It's just like, oh my goodness. But yes, everybody buy the book. It is such the audio book. If you want to do audiobooks, the person who reads the audio is fantastic. So thank you both for your time. Thank you, Harper, one, for allowing Warwick's to do this. And everybody buy the book. If it's not from Warwick's, buy it from somebody. Just buy the book.
Just buy the book. Yeah.
Just buy the book. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.